Good afternoon. Today is Monday, November 19th, 2012. Let's start our video lesson by doing a supply check. The first thing that you need is a handout that says Explain. You need your packet from Friday, Main Idea and the Watsons Go to Birmingham. You need your copy of the Watsons Go to Birmingham. And you need the Do Now handout from today. At the top it says November 19th. Go ahead and pause, make sure that you have all four of these supplies along with something to write with, preferably a pencil. When you're ready to move on, we're going to start our Do Now for today. Please start with your heading, so we're going to write our name, the date, and what period you're in. Today is November 19th. And your period 5 or 6. Let's take a look at the objective. I will use forms of the verb explain and context words to complete a paragraph with 80% accuracy or higher. Since I am used to our academic vocabulary pages by now, I have a feeling it's going to have something to do with that. I've heard the word explain before, and I've heard of context words. We've done this before. I don't know if I can complete this yet, but I do think I'm pretty close. Go ahead and rank your current level. When you've done that, I'm going to put a little check on the side. You should have completed that. Now, you will use editing marks to revise the following sentence. Then, write the corrected sentence on the lines below. So, I can't wait to eat turkey, mashed potatoes, pie, and sweet potatoes for Thanksgiving. Let's start with some of these corrections. If you think you can do it on your own, pause first and then use my walkthrough as a check for you. So, we capitalize the beginning of a sentence. Can't is a contraction, so we need to put an apostrophe. Turkey, mashed potatoes, pie, and sweet potatoes is a list, so I need to put commas between these. So turkey, comma, mashed potatoes, comma, pie, comma, and sweet potatoes. We don't add any more commas in there. For Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a proper noun, so we're going to capitalize it. And I'm going to say an exclamation point here because that's something that's exciting. You need to write the sentence here. So write the corrected sentence. A lot of you have been skipping this part. Okay. Go ahead and pause so that you can get up to speed. When you're ready to move on, Mondays is write 2 different P1s or topic sentences for the following question. Should students be required to do homework? Why or why not? We're going to practice by writing 2 different P1s for this sentence. So this could be side 1 and this could be side 2. For example, students should be required to do homework and students should not be required to do homework. These are 2 very simple possible P1s for this sentence. Go ahead and write those 2 things. I will do the same. Alright, so those are my 2 suggestions. Students should be required to do homework and students should not be required to do homework. These are very basic. If you did something more advanced, I can't wait to see it. Go ahead right now if you'd like. You can pause so that you can do the daily bonus. Turn your response into a simple or power paragraph on a separate piece of paper or on the back, since the back of today's Do Now is blank. Go ahead and do that if you like. When you're ready to move on, restart the video. Today we are working with the verb explain. A verb is an action word, so this is something that we do. The verb is explain. It is 2 sentences. Explain. Say that, mouth that, whisper it right now. Explain. You don't need to say it loudly. Here we go. We're going to write it down. E-X-P-L-A-I-N. Explain. I'm going to go ahead and pause right now and just make sure that I have my name on this handout somewhere. I'm going to put mine right here. Please do the same. Now let's look at the meaning of the word explain. To give details or reasons for something so that someone can understand it. I've heard this word before when we do our P3s. My math teacher explained the word problem to me. So that means that the math teacher gave details so that someone could understand it. We look at our word forms. We have in the present tense, I, you, we, they explain, but he, she, or it explains. In the past, it would be explained. In the word family, we have explanation and explanatory. Now we look at our word partners. We have explain how. For example, our computer science teacher explained how computers use binary codes to function. We also have explain why. The research team published a report explaining why the bee population is decreasing. And we have help explain. For example, scientists believe that studying dolphins' brains may help explain how human intelligence works. We'll be using those word families as we do our practice. Here's our practice. Our teacher recently explained how to blank. I know a lot about blank, so I could explain it to a younger student. You'll write your own ideas in here, but for my ideas, I might say, our teacher recently explained how to make assertions. I know a lot about horses, so I could explain it to a younger student. Go ahead and make sure that you've finished your verbal practice, and when you're ready to move on, unpause. We're going to go ahead and go to the back. We're going to not work with a partner, but you're going to work with me to complete the sentence using a correct form of explain and appropriate content. So for example, most teenagers could easily blank how to blank if one of their older relatives didn't know how. So I would say, most teachers could easily explain how to text if one of their older relatives did not know how. Now let's look at this one. Work independently to complete the sentence using the correct form of explain and appropriate content. If I had to blank why I enjoy playing blank, I would say it is because blank. Go ahead. How do you think you would fill these in? Where are you going to use your version of explain? And where would you put in content? I know that I'm going to use the version of explain here and put content here because this is playing blank because blank. I wouldn't say playing explain or because explain, but I could say if I had to explain because that's a verb. Go ahead and complete this on your own. Now, you're going to work independently to write two sentences. In the first sentence, we're going to use explain with the verb could. So for example, could explain, right? So for example, I could explain how to blank. Can you write what the rest of that sentence is going to be? In your second sentence, use explain in the simple past tense and include a word partner. I need to reference the back for this one. So the simple past tense is going to be explained. And then the word partner could be how, why, or help. So I'm going to choose help. Help explained. So my teacher help. Oh, that doesn't make sense, does it? Because that's too many past tenses. I'm going to cross that out. What could I do instead? Could I say explained how? That's much better. My teacher explained how blank. And then I'll complete that sentence. Go ahead and complete those two sentences. When you're ready to move on, restart the video. Let's check and just double see. It referenced modal verbs. Modal verbs are helping verbs that give additional meaning to the main verb. Could can be used to express future possibility, like I could explain that to you later, or she could go tomorrow. For the last part of this, we're going to write our academic paragraph. The directions read, complete the paragraph using the correct form of explain and original content. I'll read this with the blanks, and then you will fill in the blanks yourself. Long ago, ancient cultures developed myths to natural phenomenon like the rising and setting of the sun. For example, the Greeks believed that the sun god Helios rode across the sky in a chariot every day, bringing the up or down with him. Similarly, ancient Egyptians believed that the sun god Ra across the sky in a boat during the day. Another myth about the sun god originates from the Navajo people of the southwestern United States who thought the god Tisanahol carried the sun across the sky on his back during the day and hung it up inside his house at night. However, today we use instead of myths to this phenomenon. We know that the sun rises and sets as the earth on its axis. You can fill these in with whatever you like. If you'd like to use the word bank, you may. Here is the word bank if you would like to use it. You have explain, sun, explain, road, explain, science, rotates. These are in a mixed order. I know that explain is repeated because this is the verb that we are practicing with. You may take these verbs and use them to fill in the blanks in your writing practice. When you're done, you will have a completed academic paragraph. Your whole handout should be done and ready to turn in at the end of class. When you're ready to move on to the second part of the lesson, you may unpause. For the second part of the lesson, we're returning to our main idea and supporting details of Chapter 2 in the Watson's Go to Birmingham. We've already completed the first two. We're doing 3 and 4. We'll start reading on page 25. Make sure you are on the correct page and follow along with me. Here we go. Before Byron and Buphead caught up to me, a little crowd bunched up around us, and everyone was real excited because they knew I was about to get jacked up. Buphead said, "Here that little egghead punk is." "Leave the little clown alone," Byron said. "It's a crying shame, taking him around like a circus freak." He punched me kind of soft in the arm and said, "At least you ought to make 'em pay you for doing that mess. If it was me, they'd be coming out of the pockets with some folding money every time they took me around." I couldn't believe it. I think Byron was proud of me. When everybody saw Byron wasn't going to do anything to me for being smart, they all decided that they better not do anything either. I still got called Egghead or Poindexter or Professor some of the time, but that wasn't bad compared to what could have happened. The other thing that people would have teased me a lot more about if it hadn't been for Byron was my eye. Mama said it wasn't important, that I was a real handsome little boy. But ever since I'd been born, one of my eyeballs had been kind of lazy. That meant, instead of looking where I tell it to look, it wanted to rest in the corner of my eye next to my nose. I'd done lots of things to make it better, but none of them worked. I'd done exercises where I had to look that way, then this way, then that way, up and down and up. But when I went to look in the mirror, the eye still went back to its corner. I'd worn a patch on my other eye to make the lazy one work, but that didn't do anything either. It was fun to play like I was a pirate for a while, but that got boring. Finally, Byron gave me some good advice. He noticed that when I talked to people, I squinched my lazy eye kind of shut, or that I'd put my hand on my face to cover it. I only did this because it was hard to talk to someone when they were staring at your eye instead of listening to what you had to say. "Look, man," he told me, "if you don't want people to look at your messed up eye, you just got to do this." Byron made me stand still and look straight ahead. Then he stood on my side and told me to look at him. I turned my head to look. "Nah, man, keep your head straight and look at me sideways." I did it. "See, you ain't cockeyed no more. Your eye's as straight as an arrow now." I went to the bathroom, stood on the toilet, and leaned over to look in the mirror, sideways. And Byron was right. I couldn't help smiling. Mama was right, too. I was kind of a handsome little guy when I looked at myself sideways and both eyes were pointing in the same direction. Even though my older brother was Clark Elementary School's god, that didn't mean I never got teased or beat up at all. I still had to fight a lot, and still got called Cockeye Kenny, and I still had people stare at my eye. And I still had to watch when they made their eyes go cross when they were teasing me. It seemed like one of those things happened to me every day. But if it hadn't been for Byron, I knew that it had happened a whole lot more. That's why I was kind of nervous about what was going to happen if Byron ever got out of 6th grade and went to junior high school before I caught up to him. That's why I was going to send off for that book, Learn Karate in 3 weeks. That was back in my comic books. The worst part about being teased and riding the school bus on those mornings when Byron and Buphead decided they were going to skip school. We'd be standing on the corner waiting for the bus. Byron, Buphead, and all the other old thugs in one bunch. Larry Dunn, Banky, and all the other young thugs in another bunch. The regular kids, like Joetta in their third bunch, and me off to the side by myself. When we saw the bus about 3 blocks away, we all got in a line. Old thugs, young thugs, regular kids, then me. It wasn't until the bus stopped and the door opened that I knew whether Bi and Buphead were going. I hated when Bi walked past and said, "Give my regards to Clark, Poindexter." Some of the time, those words were like a signal for the other kids to jump on me. By the day I stopped hating the bus so much began with those same words. We were all lined up. "Give my regards to Clark, Poindexter."